No matter where you go in this state in the summer of 2016, you're going to encounter bad roads. And not trivially bad. You're going to encounter roads that are badly potholed, that have checkered and damaged surfaces, that have broken shoulders, that are badly rutted. And that is not in keeping with what we expect as Wisconsinites. We expect that our local governments, that our county governments, and above all the state government, attend to business when taking care of the things that clearly are public sector responsibilities. The roads are important to us as individuals to allow us to conduct our daily business. They're also essential for agriculture and commerce. And to allow the situation that has emerged in the past few years where an underfunded transportation fund that we took action to create as a protected fund via constitutional referendum 2 years ago remains underfunded in its ability to assist local governments in maintaining local roads. That's not right.
Right.
It's particularly not right when we see it in the face of large-scale metropolitan highway projects that are costing literally hundreds of millions of dollars that are being executed at the expense of our local and rural roads. Mm-hmm. We believe that there is a pathway to victory, and it to some extent walks across my opponent and his role as the transportation chair. Roads has emerged as a consistent issue in almost every village and town board meeting that I go to. And humorously, we happened to find a piece of campaign literature that pertained to my opponent, and on that he was claiming that he was going to do something about roads. Well, that's on the face of it ludicrous. This man is running for his 5th term in office. He's been chairman of the Transportation Committee for 2 budget cycles. He created this problem, and he cannot hide behind a door card complaining that he's
They're going to have to borrow that money.
That's right.
Is there any way we can...
Well, you know, I think, and it's a little bit ironic that the people that have created this problem are now all of a sudden, you know, having a come to Jesus moment and wanting to do something about it. You may know that Senator Nygren went to the Legislative Fiscal Bureau and had them do an analysis of the transportation budget as it exists and through the next biennium. And they identified a $900 million shortfall, irrespective of these additional highway projects. That extra $100 million comes on top of that, which drives that number north of $1 billion.
Clean billion, there you go.
Yeah, it's a clean billion. It's a clean billion.
They keep that up, it's going to run into real money.
Should we advocate for borrowing more money? We're quickly moving to the point where transportation bonding will cost 30 cents out of every transportation dollar that we can find. We can't do that. We simply cannot do that, but maybe we will, and that will be another hard lesson to learn.
Well, our gas taxes are probably the highest in the Midwest, at least.
There are things that can be done. One is to look at the existing revenue streams, or the revenue pie, if you will, and see what can be done to more fairly distribute transportation dollars to the localities, the municipalities, the counties, and farther down. Now, that can only be done at the expense of these huge high-ticket projects, many of which are in advanced stages of completion. So that's a challenge. That needs to be worked out. You have to extend timelines, which inevitably cost more money, but we cannot go on in rural Wisconsin with continually degrading roads. The same place that decided to play policy football with me, the Township of Scott, had spent half of their meeting that I sat through, innocently, not knowing what was in store for me, talking about allowing one of their town roads to go back to gravel. And now it happened to be a town road that goes through a marsh, and frost action over the years badly broke up the road. They can't fix it. And they were admitting to that fact. That's not Wisconsin. We don't go backwards in this state and go back to roads. I mean, there was a time when there were a lot of dirt roads here. Some of us probably remember those years. We don't want to go back there. We need to look at the existing revenue streams and see how they can be more fairly distributed. We also have to look at alternative means of directing money into the transportation fund. Now, the thing you hear most frequently is indexing the gas tax. The gas tax is already pretty high. It's not astronomically high when you compare it, nationally, but I think in the Midwest it's maybe 1 or 2. It's up there. So what can we do? Now, the gas tax itself has a challenge because it's apparent that we're going to see more and more hybrids and eventually probably electric cars. And what does that do to your gas revenue? It's going to drive it down. We're going to have to look at creative ways to ensure that people that drive on the highways with alternative type machines also pay their fair share. It's only right. There are other things that can be done. The city of Lodi recently enacted a wheel tax. Now, in Lodi, that was an act of desperation because they had projects that needed to be dealt with, and the only way that they could see to find the revenue was to enact a wheel tax. So now if you happen to live in the city of Lodi, when you go to register your car, or maybe the town clerk knows what you have for a car, you get assessed a fee. There are a variety of fees that could be considered. One might imagine that the people that use the roads the most, heavy commercial operators, many companies of which may only use Wisconsin as a transit from Chicago or points south to Minnesota or points north. We need to capture their fair share. They shouldn't be using Wisconsin roads for free. Now, in the township of Arlington last night, the issue of roads came up, and they were joking, but not really joking, about how large trucks are now using Richards Road, which is a town road that parallels Route 60, in order to avoid driving on State Highway 60 because it's become too rough.
And that's what tears the roads up.
And that's what tears the roads up. So, people that use our roads, we need to look at and make sure that everybody is paying their fair share. I'm certainly not advocating for some sort of broad-based tax to fund the transportation department, or the transportation fund. I believe that by looking critically at how the money is spent and ensuring that all areas get their fair share, and by creatively exploring alternative revenue streams that take into account use factors, that money can be added. And maybe we have to reach a little farther. A gentleman offered up a novel notion the other day, and he called it the six-pack tax. Now, in Wisconsin, we like to drink a lot of beer. What if you had a 50-cent surtax on every six-pack of beer that went directly to the transportation fund? You don't have to do a lot of math to realize that money turns into some pretty serious money fairly quickly.